The following podcast is taken from a live broadcast on Inspire FM.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome to the Arise to Success show, where we aim to highlight inspiring individuals and their journeys to success. My name is Gehad, I'm your host on this show. Throughout the show, dear listeners, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to send them 07779 481822. Excuse me. Our guest today is Roda Imam, who is a mom of 4 and a community development lead. She has also been in the personal development space for over 4 years as a business mindset coach, as well as organizing and facilitating, doing public speaking and personal development events for women. Roda will be sharing with us today how she was someone who was always stopped herself from doing things she wanted to do. And all this was because she had fear of not doing well, fear of failure, fear of what others would say, fear of not being qualified, and the list goes on and on. In 2019, as a mom of 3, long before COVID hit, Roda made a decision to fix up and work on herself, to take things seriously, to stop planning, and to start taking action. This one shift in intention set the motion for her, a motion which meant she was able to work on her personal development and also make money from home. Today, Roda is here to tell us, or to tell all those women who have ambitions and plans to go for it. Nothing can stop you but yourself. Overcome your mindset hurdles and go for it. Things will not be smooth or always easy, but a small positive shift and intention can really set the motion for your life. Roda, so lovely having you with us today, and what amazing background, mashallah. Welcome to the Arise to Success show, Roda. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Jad. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm doing well, alhamdulillah. Bit tired from a very long day, but really, really happy to be here. Thank you so much, Jad. And thank you so much for the intro as well.
You're most welcome. And it is very cold today as well, right?
Very cold. Oh,
yes.
Very, very cold. Literally the coldest day.
Yeah, I hope it's not going to be getting any colder than this, but let's see. We are in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
So with that said, mashallah, Roda, amazing background as mentioned. If you can tell us, perhaps if we start with telling us a bit more about the work you do and how did you get into business mindset coaching?
Okay, so a little bit about what I do. So I've actually been in the third sector industry for a while, like basically NGO. And I've been working for a small charity organization, a community organization actually. And it's been about 7 years working there, where I basically manage, organize, lead the development of community projects. And I do also, I'm actually heavily involved in terms of the raising funds. So I am always like doing funding applications and trying to raise funds so that we can continue with the great work we do. We do work for, it's a BAME organization, so we work with people from minority ethnic backgrounds. We've got communities from Afghanistan, from Somalia, from different regions of the world. So initially I did, because I used to volunteer at the center itself, the same center that I'm working for right now. And working with like very different people, working with like mainly a lot of women, I would say, and also young people. So to be honest, I've been really, really passionate about what I do, and I don't see myself doing anything else. I don't see myself doing anything else, to be honest, in terms of the work that I do. I think it's something where you're actually giving back to the community. You're not just working for the sake, I'm working to earn a salary. It's more than that. There's a lot involved. Like literally last week, I was basically facilitating the winter camp. We've had a lack of staff, so I had to literally go in and lead some of the activities with the young people. And a lot of that, to be honest, there's a lot where I give my own time, like volunteer. Alhamdulillah, my kids do also kind of like go to the center itself. So it's really nice, like a really nice community environment. As for business mindset coaching, I've been coaching for a few years now. But in terms of how I got into the whole industry. It's my personal development journey basically started in, I would say around 2018, almost 2019. I was heavily pregnant then with my third born, who's actually almost 5 now. And I basically, for me, to be honest, I was always trying to figure out, okay, like, what do I need to do? There's times where I would feel low and I was trying to figure out, like, am I doing the right thing in life? Always reflecting on myself. And this is nothing to do with any work that I've done. Like, at that point, I barely read much in terms of personal development, but I was very passionate about, I would say definitely trying to work on like my mental health. I feel like I struggled a lot and growing up, and I feel like I think being a mom, like being a mother, at that time I had 2 young children. I think they were aged 4 and 5 at the time. They're almost 9 and 10 now. And I was thinking, like, I don't want my kids to pick up on the traits that I had. And I feel like I didn't stop until, like, there's certain things that I was doing where I would, for example, I would look down on myself.
So Roda,
I would struggle with self-confidence.
Yeah, sorry, I lost you for a second. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, so I would struggle with like self-confidence and to be honest, struggled a lot in terms of like expressing myself and just to being like all around happy. And I felt like me being a mum was the turning point for me. I was like, do you know what? I need to make changes. I don't want my kids to see me like miserable all the time. I need to make sure that they're not picking up on these traits, so that they're stronger as individuals. And I think that's literally the reason why I kind of like started my personal development journey. And from there, it was basically what I did was I basically researched the typical how to make money from home. At the time, I was at home. I was heavily pregnant. I had the other 2 going into, I think one was in nursery and one was just going into reception at that time. And I was like, you know what? I think it's time for me to start making changes. Like, I need to take action. I was always the kind of person who plans, organizes, but never implements. And I think the turning point for me was definitely making that intention that I want to make changes. Like, that's it, that I need to really like change things around. I need to stop comparing myself. I need to stop looking down on myself. I need to stop thinking about what others would say about me. And I think that's how I started my journey. So it literally started from me being a virtual assistant, actually. So I first of all, I worked in like various freelancing websites, for example, Upwork and Fiverr. And from there, basically, I picked up like a lot because I was learning along the way. Like, I don't have a background in marketing, business, none of that. It's just, I literally learned along the way. So for example, like a client would come to me and tell me, okay, I need to, let's say I've got like some copywriting to do, maybe some editing to do for like a newsletter. And I would literally be like, yep, I can do it. Literally, I didn't look down. I was like, do you know what? I can do this. I think it was definitely, the major point was thinking, knowing that I can actually do things. I don't have to like, anything is doable. And I think that's the biggest thing in terms of like the shift that that happened in terms of like my personal development journey, and also being in business as a business mindset coach. So from there, it was like the freelancing, and then I became a virtual assistant eventually. So I learned how to market myself on Instagram, on Facebook. And from there, I learned how to find clients. And I just saw myself in a world where I was literally surrounded by so many, like it was literally, I would say Muslim coaches at the time. And it was during the pandemic when everything was like, everyone was like, there was a high increase in terms of like the number of people being in this field. And so alhamdulillah, like I was really making a lot of money as a virtual assistant working with these coaches. And from there I was like, you know what, like I think as much as I loved what I was doing, like as much as I loved generating income and like finding a whole world that I never knew of before, I felt like I was missing something. Like I wanted a bit more challenge. Like I would say I didn't really enjoy doing the same task over and over again. And from my work, I think in the community, I've always kind of like coached people, mentored people, consulted without me realizing that it's actually that it actually was a whole field of its own.
Yeah.
And to be honest, and that's how I started. So I would say like I've already had experience from my community work. I didn't know that I could kind of like that this could be my thing. Like this could be something that I could call my own. Like I could call myself a coach. And it's like business mindset coach. I know that you've got the business side of things, but a majority of it is definitely the mindset. And the mindset definitely, I would say, comes from my own work, my own experience on the journey that I took from 2018 till date. I think that's what led me to the whole, like showed me, okay, there's a lot that you can do by tweaking your own mindset in order for you to actually achieve. And alhamdulillah, I'm able to carry on this work, like in the community. I'm still working in the community. I am on a bit of a break in terms of the coaching, but inshallah, I'm still like, like I try to utilize the tools that I've learned and everything with my own kids, because I actually homeschool them right now. I try my best to implement like positive self-talk and like, to show you that anything is possible and like to just take action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Love it, mashallah, subhanallah. And it feels like that Allah was guiding you through it all.
I would say definitely, honestly. Like when I think about it, it's that intention that I made. And I never thought of it. Okay, this is the intention is, okay, I'm going to make this intention to actually switch things around. I'm actually going to take action. I think that was the intention that changed everything for me. 100%. Like, and I didn't really notice at the time. At the time, I feel like I wasn't really, like, like you just pray, you just like, you read Quran, but you're not really, like, I feel like I wasn't as focused in terms of like my deen. And throughout the journey, from when I started to now, honestly, like, I feel like it has helped me, alhamdulillah, get closer to Allah. I have met people that I never thought I would meet. And imagine everything's like online. I've met some of these lovely women offline. I've met you offline. Like, it's really nice to like connect with people and to find the people, like the right people around you, the people who motivate you in terms of, I would say definitely in terms of Islam. Alhamdulillah.
Wow. Beautiful, subhanallah. And I personally needed this advice myself because, I know that I'm in the process of kind of, I don't know if I actually told you about the personality work, but I'll speak to you offline about it. But I'm in the process of kind of developing a website and trying to take it further. And sometimes we forget it's like having that reliance on Allah. It's like the next step's like, oh my God, so what's going to happen the next step? How do I start getting clients and this and that? So sometimes when you stay focused on that, you forget. And you just gave me a really good reminder, which is about the intention, having that intention. SubhanAllah, it sounds like Allah has guided you through it. You didn't have that plan. You were doing it naturally, which is coaching people because you have it in you, subhanAllah. And it's like Allah has kind of just guided you through the whole process with that intention and action as well. So it's a great reminder for me and inshallah a great reminder for all of us as well, inshallah, and our dear listeners as well. So jazakallah khair. It's been really, really great, inshallah, hearing these things that you've shared. I'm just going to remind our dear listeners, just in case anybody joined us a bit later, is that we have Roda with us on the show today, who is a mom of 4 and a community development lead. She has also been in the personal development space for over 4 years as a business mindset coach, as well as organizing and facilitating, doing public speaking and personal development events for women. Roda is sharing with us today how her fears have stopped her from doing things she always wanted to until she decided to work on those fears. Roda now helps women with ambitions and plans to act upon them and overcome their mindset hurdles in order to achieve what they want in life. Dear listeners, if you have any questions or comments, any specific questions for Roda, please feel free to send them on 07779 481822. So I just mentioned in the description now, Roda, about your fears. So maybe if we can talk a little bit more about the fears that you've had that stopped you from doing all the things that you wanted to do. You kind of touched upon them briefly. If we can talk about them a little bit more, because I think that's something that certainly stopped me in the past, and I'm sure that applies to a lot of people as well, and maybe some of our listeners can relate to this. So it would be great to kind of get to know a bit more about them, and after you share them, we'll talk about how you managed to overcome them.
Okay. In terms of fears, I would say the number one always, what would people think? What would people think, like, if I do this, if I do that, like, what would like someone say? And I think that that was like the biggest thing. Like growing up, I was always that person. Like I just wanted to please everyone but myself. And honestly, I feel like that is the worst thing you can do to yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's like you'll see no progress. Like I was always ambitious. Like growing up, I've always been ambitious. Like I'm always the kind of person like who wants to do things. I've got so many ideas always since I was like really young until like, you know, as an adult, as a mom, and then working, and then as a coach itself. But it's always this thing like, what would people think if I do this, if I do that? Like, what are they going to say? What are they going to? And it's really sad because that really stops you. Like that small thing can stop you from achieving big. Talking about this, I can go back to, I remember my first time applying for university, and what I wanted to do was psychology as a degree. And I told a few people, family members, and I was like, "Oh, I'm applying to do psychology." And like, "What's that going to do for you? You're not going to get a job." And I remember, like, I was so passionate about it. Like, I was set. I was like, this is what I want to do. I don't know how many years ago this is, but I think it was back in 2010, 2011. And at the time, one of the unis I applied for, I think it was Goldsmith University in London. I basically applied, and they had, I think they do interviews. So I was invited for an interview. And I did the interview, and it was like the best thing I've ever done. Like, because I struggled, like I had like serious anxiety, struggled to express myself, communicate. And when it came to stuff like interviews, and I just wouldn't be able to do it. But because of the passion, I was so excited, like to do this. I did really well. Like the interview was so good, and they gave me like unconditional offer to go to the university to do psychology. And I remember going back home and telling, like my parents are like really like, alhamdulillah, very like for them, like they support you, like whatever you want to do it. But then I told other people, and I was like, I'm going to do psychology. I got into Goldsmith, and they're like, what's that going to do for you? Like, I thought you were going to do medicine, because the plan was for me to do medicine and everything. And because of those comments, I basically declined the offer.
Oh my God, really? Wow.
I declined the offer. And I was literally confused, and I went basically applied for a degree in physiology with the aim of basically doing 3 years and then afterwards applying for a postgrad in to do medicine. So I remember starting. So I applied to physiology. I went and I got into the physiology degree in September, let's say, of I think it was like 2010, and then. I remember the first 2 weeks, I hated it so much. I hated it so much to the point where I was like, I'm going to quit this. And I met a girl in the university, and she was telling me about another degree. So she was telling me about radiotherapy and oncology, which is what she was doing in the same university. And I was like, oh, wow, that sounds so interesting. So I went and switched mid-year, like in literally the first, I would say it was like the first 2 months of university. And I switched from physiology to radiotherapy and oncology. And from then, I did a whole 2 years, and honestly, I really love like working, like, because it was like it's a very practical based kind of like degree, because we do have to work in hospital half the time, and half the time we'll be in university. I remember like my second year, like basically I was about to finish my second year, going into the third year. I got really sick, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was traveling literally from London to Reading every day for placement. It was like a 2.5 hour journey, and obviously with London traffic, like it was hectic. And at the time I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? I only did all of that. Like I went through all of that just because I'm trying to please people.
Yeah.
And I struggled up to the point where I end up in hospital because my body was like burnt out, like severely sick, where the doctors were so confused, like they didn't know what was wrong with me. But the only thing, like now, like thinking back, it was definitely burnout. Like I was so burnt out. I think I was exhausted physically, mentally, and I ended up quitting that year. And instead, I basically converted. So the degree that I did in the end, I ended up having a degree in health science. So I just converted the credits that I got from the radiotherapy and oncology and completed a health science degree. But the whole process, what I'm talking about is this whole journey was literally because I went through all of that because I'm scared of what would people think. And I'm scared of like people's comments, and I'm always trying to please others. And
Oh.
yeah, like literally a journey where, subhanallah, I feel like for me, I feel like when I think things have changed, I think when I did make the intention, okay, I need to make changes. And the first thing is definitely to stop thinking about what others would think. And I think because of that, I've been able to do much more, achieve so much, do things I never ever imagined to do. Like I never thought I'd be able to do public speaking, like stand up and speak in front of people. I never thought I'd be able to host my own events. That was like a dream. I used to think like you have to be so big to do all of that. Like you have to be so qualified. But it just shows you like anything is possible. Like we can do anything, but we just have to stop these fears from like taking over our lives. Our lives, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. SubhanAllah. Wow. It's like with listening to you, it's like what you're saying to kind of just listen to yourself. Yes, it's good to seek advice, but not to do it for other people. And it feels like you wasted years of your life and you could have been doing what you wanted. So that's a great message to send out there. So Jazakallah khair. Now, with those fears, where do you think they come from for you? Where do you think they came from? And you've kind of touched upon a little bit more about how you've overcome them. Are there any other strategies that you've used, or was that the only strategy that you think has actually made you realize, which is setting an intention and then acting upon it? Were there any other strategies, and where do you think those fears have come from? We've got a few minutes before the break, so yeah, I'll go for it.
Okay, so I would say in terms of the fears, I think I literally grew up in an environment where, so I'm the eldest in my family. I've always lived like with family, like we always have like aunts, uncles around, and like people always saying things. And I grew up being labeled that shy, very shy girl. I wasn't able to express myself, and I think I struggled as a result. Like I was always trying to like be perfect, try to please everyone, try to be like really good, and I carried on. You know, like you just carry on with that personality without you realizing into adulthood, and you're like, oh my god. Like, why am I not happy? Why am I not okay? And it's just this thing where I just carried on like with those labels. I let those labels, I would say, take over me. I let those labels, I would say, lead me, like lead my decisions and who I was as a person. And I think that's where a lot of the fears came from. I was so scared of like saying something wrong. I was so scared of being told, oh, you think, so if, for example, like when I remember when I mentioned the psychology thing, it was like, oh, what's that going to do for you? Like, how are you going to get a job? And like, there was a lot. And then thinking about it now is like, who are they to judge? Do you get it? Like, we are like as humans, like we just judge like we don't know what's going to happen. Allah guides us. Like he knows like what you're capable of and what you're not. But you see people literally kind of like dictating your life, kind of like directing you to certain things. Yeah, like I think it's just this thing where the fear just comes like it just without you realizing, you just see yourself completely lost, I would say. And I think it's something that I definitely instill in my kids. Like I always make sure like I tell them, okay, like if you're feeling a certain way, like express it, talk to me, tell me about it. And I think that's what I never had like growing up. I struggled because of the labels. Yeah. Because I was scared, oh my God, I'm going to be told off. Because I was scared I'm going to be told, oh, what are you talking about? Like, you're being silly now, you know? So I struggled a lot because of this fears, I would say, definitely from childhood. And I kind of like continued growing up. I kind of like continued as I grew up with it. In terms of dealing with these fears, I would say just taking action. Like I was just like, you know what? I have to just get on with it. What's the worst that could happen? Like I remember like with for example, like certain things when it comes to like the business side of things, I remember I didn't want anyone to know like what I was doing in terms of like social media. And so I would try my best to make sure like people that knew me didn't know what I was doing. And then thinking about it, it's like, what was the point of that? It's not like I was doing anything wrong. Like, does that make sense? Like I wasn't really doing anything wrong. Like it's like I think definitely reflecting as well, like reflecting on what is the reason behind a certain feeling or a thought. Why am I thinking certain ways? I think that's been my biggest definitely motivator. Like taking intentions, reflecting, and putting my trust in Allah.
Yeah.
I think I struggled. I never really used to think of it like that before. I'll make dua, like if I'm having struggles, if I'm having severe, like when I'm feeling like really anxious, I would make dua. I never used to do that before. And I feel like this has really opened up a lot for me. Like I feel like even in terms of confidence, literally the fact that I know like, okay, I can make dua to Allah, I could, and things will change. Like I don't have to be like thinking about others.
Yeah.
Like of course, like I'll be sad, like we're human and we still go back into like no one's perfect. I'm not gonna say I'm perfect. I don't think I still do those things, but I think I've got strategies to work around it. Like I know that I'm not gonna let these thoughts revolve. Like I'm not gonna let these thoughts like literally control me. Because there was a point where I would literally be thinking about things so much up to the point where it ruined my day. Like I'll be so stressed out over this something so small of what someone said. And it's like, it doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Sorry, Roda, I'm going to have to stop here because we're going for a short break. So we literally got just 15 seconds. So dear listeners, do stay tuned. This is Aspire FM Luton on 105.1. We'll be going for a very short break. So please do stay tuned. Inshallah, we'll continue after the break.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Atif Nawaz. Listen to Inspire FM shows in your time by heading over to inspirefm.org or listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome back to the Arise the Success Show. We have Roda Imam with us today, who is a mom of 4 and a community development lead. She has also been in the personal development space for over 4 years as a business mindset coach, as well as organizing and facilitating, doing public speaking and personal development events for women. Roda is sharing with us today how she was someone who was always stopped herself from doing things she wanted to do. And all this was because she had fear of not doing well, fear of failure, fear of what others would say, fear of not being qualified, and the list goes on and on. In 2019, as a mom of 3 long before COVID hit, Roda made a decision to fix up and work on herself, to take things seriously, to stop planning and to start taking action. This one shift in intention set the motion for her, a motion which meant she was able to work on her personal development and also make money from home. Today, Roda is here to tell us, or to tell all those women who have ambitions and plans, to go for it. Nothing can stop you but yourself. Overcome your mindset hurdles and go for it. Things will not be smooth or always easy, but a small positive shift and intention can really set the motion for your life. Dear listeners, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to send them on 07779 481822. So Roda, Jazakallah khair again for being here with us. I've really enjoyed everything you've been discussing before the show, which we were talking about the fears, a little bit more about the work that you do and how you got into and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has led you to it with the intention and the action and reliance on Allah, as you said before the end of the show, that what has helped you is setting the intention, acting upon it, and then having that trust in Allah as well. I think I said before the show, before the end of the show, it was before the break. I just realized. And now, inshallah, we'll be moving to talking a little bit more about the shift that you had in 2019 when you made a decision to work on yourself, to stop planning and to start taking action. So if we can focus a little bit more on that shift, what happened, what was the first action that you started and kind of that led you to making a lot of those changes?
Okay. So in terms of the shift, I feel like I've kind of like touched on this previously.
Yeah.
But with regards to like all of this, I think definitely, literally just, it was this thing where I think being a mom of like, I had 2 kids at the time, and then I was heavily pregnant with my 3rd born. I was thinking like, I felt really low. I felt like a failure because I never thought I'll be like, I always thought of myself as like, one of this, let's just say like, in my head at the time, I thought it was like the successful working mom, a mom who's just like outside of the house, like she's got like a really top job. And I thought for me, that was the standard. Like I thought that's what I wanted in life. And being at home, literally with 2 little kids and a newborn, and I was thinking, oh my God, I haven't made anything. Like I felt like I didn't really achieve anything. Like, I felt like I really thought, let's just say, like, when I was like in my early 20s, I thought I would be able to do something. Like, I did have aspirations, like, to do psychology. I did at one point think that I'll be able to get into medicine. So I thought, you know, maybe I'll be a psychologist, or maybe I'll be a doctor. You know, like, I thought I'll be like, I'll have like a title, let's just say. But I think, again, thinking about it, I wasn't doing any of that. Like, the reasons why I had those thoughts was because of what I see and hear around me, like the people around me. And I think it's a thing where people kind of like glamorize, oh, a working mom, like, you know, they'll be like, oh, like, people will be like, some aunties will be like, oh, my daughter just gave birth and now she's working, you know, like, for me, I thought that was like like the best thing. Like, I wanted to achieve that, and because I didn't really achieve that, I felt hopeless. I felt like I still didn't know what I wanted to do in life. I still didn't have like any passions. Like, I didn't know what I enjoyed. I didn't know who I was. I basically, I was very low, not gonna lie. And I think the biggest changing factor was trying to figure out, how can I make myself feel better? Like, what can I do to make myself feel better? How can I get out of this negative kind of like, how can I get out of this? I would say, I don't know how to word it. Like, I would say like it was like a negative energy all the time. Like, I wasn't feeling motivated. I remember waking up in the mornings where I just felt really rubbish, and in the evening I just couldn't wait for like, I just didn't want to be around the kids as much. Like, I didn't feel it was. I would definitely say I was depressed. I was depressed 100%, to the point where I couldn't wait for them just to go to sleep so I can have just quiet time. Waking up was a struggle for me. Like, you know, like, just feeling hopeless, feeling like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing in life. And I was like, I need to find a solution for this. This is not good. Like, this has been ongoing for a few years at that point, I would say, since I had my son. So it was like back in 2014, sorry. And imagine, from 2014 till like 2019, I was going through the same spiral. Like, I was literally going through the same thing. Sorry. Yeah, so I was going through the same, I would say the same talk in my head, like the same negative self-talk. I'm not worth it. I'm not good enough. I still don't know, like, what, like, I've got no ambitions. I've got no passions. I failed. Why am I not a doctor? Why am I not a psychologist? Why, like, you know, like, the whys, like, I think a lot of it definitely came from Shaitan. And at the time, I would say 100%, my iman was at its lowest ever. And, you know, like, when it's like that, I feel like, I used to feel like, oh, even if I pray, like, nothing's gonna happen anyways. You know, like, when you just, I would say I was very pessimistic.
Yeah.
And I carried on with that. For me, I was like, dude, this is not good. Like, I cannot continue like this. I can't do this. Like, I don't want my kids to see this. Like, I don't want them to remember me as that mum who's always sad and miserable.
Yeah.
And I think that was definitely when the tables turned for me. I was like, oh, do you know what? I really need to make changes.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel like I have always been like, I did go through like mental health. I'm not like proper like diagnosed, but, you know, like, I would say like low all the time, like, since I was young. And I did continue with that. And as a result, I was so like negative. Like, I was so pessimistic. Like, I was just low all the time, but I was also willing to take action. Like, I wanted to do things. So, for example, like, I would get involved in community projects, community events, all of that was volunteer. Like, I would do it as a volunteer. I remember literally before I started the whole online thing, I was tutoring, and imagine I was charging like £5 an hour, which is like nothing. I was traveling back and forth with my little kids, traveling to these my students' houses, like to the houses that I'm teaching, and I was going through so much. I was pushing myself up to the point where I was so exhausted. But for me, what I noticed in that is I was able to actually do things despite me being low. I had a drive. Like, I had this something in me where I really wanted to push myself.
Yeah.
And I think I'll going back, I'll definitely say that intention was the biggest factor for me. Like, just, you know, like, making the intention that I really want to change. I don't want to be the same. Like, I don't want to be negative all the time. I would say I was like completely negative up to the, like, I would say I had a fixed mindset. Like, I never believed that certain things are possible. I never thought I could be a coach. I never thought I could be like, to be able to market myself. I never thought I'll do anything like business related, because I used to think, oh, you have to be qualified enough, or you have to go and study, like, you know, or you have to be like, you need to have connections, or you need to be like popular, or like, you know, lots of things that come into your head. But what I realized after making that shift and the intention and seeing progress in my life, the issue was the fact that I was so pessimistic, and all I needed to do was like shift that. And now, alhamdulillah, I would say definitely, like, I've got a really big, I would say I'm very big on like having that growth mindset, being positive, seeing things as possible, like anything is possible. So, for example, if I've got an idea in my head, I'll be like, yes, of course you can do it. I get people literally come to me, like mums who see me, like, because I'm homeschooling. So sometimes I'll organize stuff for the homeschool community, and then I'll be like, oh, I need to go home and I'll cook. Like, I've got my grandmother who I look after sometimes, and I'm doing all of that, and people will be like, how do you manage to do all of that? Like, they're like, I can't do any of that, like, you know. And in my head, I'm like, anything is possible. But I'm noticing that people like, oh no, like, it's impossible. If you put the thought impossible in your head, it's going to be impossible. But if you feel like, okay, you can do it, of course you can do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I continue doing, and it has helped me so much, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So you changed from thinking of the impossible to the possible, mashallah, which is amazing.
Definitely. Stopping with the negativity, I think, definitely the biggest factor in terms of shifting.
Yeah, and I'm interested specifically as well about the shift where you said that you've made that intention and things have changed. Did it just change automatically, or did you need to take specific action?
Oh, of course not automatically. I basically, so, you know, when I started the whole, I think this, so, you know, I kind of touched on this. So when I first started, it was like, I remember there was a day when I was literally Googling how to make money from home. And I was like getting all these ideas. So I got into, there was like affiliate marketing. I was like, what is this? So I researched about it and everything. And then from there, it led me to like Fiverr and Upwork. And then on Fiverr, like, I was trying to like find clients, and I did find one particular client, and the client basically wanted me to find him a list of affiliate companies. So I literally stayed up like all night long. Imagine the amount of work that I did was crazy. And then he quoted me like, I would say it was like £15 to do all of that, like 2 days worth of work. And at the time I was so excited, you know, like, oh my god, someone's actually willing to give me money, pay me like to do this, like, you know. And imagine, after all that work, he ghosted me. The guy literally ghosted me, and I couldn't, because, you know, like, Fiverr is like, I feel like there is not a lot of control on like some of these freelancing companies. I was not able to reach out to him, like, I was not able to find it. And I was like, oh my god, he literally made me do all of that. He took the work and just ignored me and not even paid me, even though I know £15.
That's what I'm saying. Literally, it was only £15. Wow.
It was only £15 with the promise, oh, I'll give you more work.
Right.
And I was like, oh my god. But you know what? I was like, okay, I'm onto something. You know, I was like, I really felt sad. I remember the number of times, like, my husband would be like, what's wrong with you? Stop working day and night. You don't need to be working all night long. I'm like, no, I can do this. I know I'm doing something. Like, there's some, like, you know, like when you see that progress and you feel so excited and you're like, oh my god, something, like, I've discovered something new. Like, I never knew of this world. I actually never knew of the online space, like the fact that you can actually monetize from the online space. I didn't know anything marketing related. And it was like, you know, like, through, I think, that motivation, I'm like, okay, I'm excited now, like, I need to do more. And then slowly I think I got into, it was Facebook. From Facebook, basically, I joined a Muslim bloggers group. Actually, going back, basically, I discovered that you can, from affiliate marketing, I discovered that you can create a blog and then kind of like link your affiliates. And I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do this. So I sat down and literally learned the ins and outs of how to create a website. And I made my first website on Wix. And at the time, I was like, oh, wow, this is so, you know, like, with Wix, basically, you just like use templates and stuff. And for me, I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, this is so good. I'm doing something. And I remember creating the first blog, created the second blog, and not seeing, you know, like, any progress. I'm like, okay, now I need to figure out how am I supposed to get people to actually view my website, because like obviously you need the number of views, and the more people obviously that view, then they can click on your links. And at the time, that's when I joined Facebook groups, and I found out I didn't even know nothing about Facebook groups. So I joined Facebook groups, and it led me to a Muslim Facebook bloggers group. I don't know if it's still I don't know if it's still like live, but it was basically very active at the time, where people who have like websites, Muslim bloggers, and would basically kind of like connect on there, and you can like share your blogs. And from there, I met my first coach. So my first ever coach, and this was actually a business coach. And of course, I didn't know nothing at the time. Like I was like, oh my God, like, like when this first coach kind of like connected with me, and she's talking to me, and I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I need. She's like, I can help you like set up your business and everything. And so I hired my first coach, and imagine I had no money, literally no money. I was like, I can do this. And it cost me about, I think it must have cost me about £1,500. I was like, I can do this. I was like, you know what, I can do this. So I basically invested with this coach, and that's where my journey so I stopped the whole freelancing thing, like Upwork and all of that, and my journey as a virtual assistant started then. And from then, like started working with the first ever client I received was during the period that I was working with the coach. I basically found a client on Facebook. So remember, because I learned the whole concept of Facebook groups, I was like, oh, this is exciting. I started looking for clients on Facebook groups and kind of like promoting myself. And for me, promoting myself was a hard thing, because that was something I never thought I'll be able to do. Like I always looked down on myself. I always kind of like, I was always that background person, even like volunteering or working community and being in the community kind of like field, I think for a while, I was always the background. Like I never thought I'd be able to kind of like promote myself, like expressing myself in that way was so alien to me, but I did. And I did actually end up working with a client based in America, and kind of like working on, it was an ebook that she wanted to be edited. From there, my journey of like, how to utilize Canva starts. And it's like, I can do this. This is exciting. Like the whole thing, I think, really shifted my eyes, like the process, like going through. Obviously I had struggles. I had nights where I'll cry and I'll be like, why am I not like doing much? Why am I not making money? Because of course I was also a mum, a wife at home, and I've got little kids, and I literally started neglecting like everything. I was so focused on business, I didn't care about anything else. And I remember that year, I think it was Ramadan. I think that was that was one of the worst Ramadans I've ever had, only because I was like, I didn't even care. It was so sad. I would fast and everything, like break your fast, make everything quickly. But my head was just like thinking about business all the time. Oh my God, I need to do this for my client. I need to do this for my client. Like it was crazy. And I saw myself kind of like spiraling back into that, like that low moods. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm doing all of this. I'm working so hard. I'm pushing myself. And I'm still feeling low. Then I realized I was actually burnt out again. I went through that phase where I was pushing myself to the limit. I did end up getting sick, and I remember it was like a day or two. I had to go hospital, and then they had to like put fluids in me and stuff. And I think I had the coach at the time. I did kind of like talk to her and everything, and I realized, you know what? The thing is, you can make money, you can do things, you can make progress, but you have to work within yourself. Like you have to work on yourself as well, because progress doesn't happen just like that. Like if you're feeling miserable and low, and if you're feeling burnt out, you'll see yourself like, okay, falling back, and you see the progress that you've made literally going the other way. Like I saw myself struggling in terms of like, there was a time, there'll be times when working with clients, and I'll struggle to express myself, and I'll struggle to set boundaries, and like I would work day and night. And imagine I'm literally getting, let's just say I wasn't charging like large amounts at the time, like in the beginning, but I was doing like crazy work. I would say almost like full-time work. So I would work like all night. So there's lots of ups and downs involved. But the journey, honestly, I think I had to go through all that. I always say I had to go through all of that to be where I am now. Like you have to go through struggles in order for you to kind of like, okay, understand, okay, what changes do I need to be making? I think going through all of that helped me in terms of being stronger as a person. Like you can struggle, you can go through, you can have like you'll go through stress, you'll go through struggles with people, and of course I had my people pleasing thing where I like to be the best for this person. Like I want this client to see me as the best thing ever. Like I want them to see my work as the best of the best. And don't get me wrong, I did get really good. Like people be like, oh my god, like we've never had a virtual assistant this amazing. But deep inside, I was struggling because I was so exhausted. I was like, oh my god, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But I think it was. I had to go through all of that 100% to shift my perspective. Because now I think I've got the tools. So when I go through struggles, when I'm stressed out, I know I can come back. I'm not gonna fall down that sinkhole where I'm like, that's it, I can't do anything anymore. And I won't give up. Like I used to have this thing where I used to give up easily. Like I'll start things, give up, give up. But this is the first time in my life where I felt like I was actually doing things and I was continuing despite the struggles that I was going through. Despite any struggles that I go through.
Yeah. And I guess, as you said, that journey that you went through, you needed it as part of your self-development to work on those challenges that you had, the negativity, for example, not thinking that you're worthy of this work until actually you realize that, oh, the outcome is actually getting you somewhere.
Yeah.
And then kind of like, kind of progress from there. So I feel like that result, as you said, that result of, you can get £15 for this work, it's like it made you kind of.
It really motivates. Yeah. Definitely.
So it kind of, I just want to highlight on that as well, is that, taking action and seeing results can motivate us to move on. So sometimes it's just getting yourself to take that action is quite important in order for us to see the result, in order for us to keep going and going and going. And whatever journeys that we go through is different for everyone. It is a plan from Allah for us to go through those journeys so that we can deal with certain things. For you, for example, is the negativity that you've had, and now, mashallah, it completely changed from negativity to positivity.
Alhamdulillah.
From the impossible.
I go through struggles, life. But I think I've learned the tools, I've just learned, at the end of the day, these little things, sometimes they're so small, you shouldn't let it don't let it ruin your life, your day. Don't let something so small affect you in terms of how you behave, how I behave as a mom. Sometimes I remember when I'll be so miserable, I didn't want to, I just didn't want to deal with the kids, and they'll be telling me, mom, and I wasn't even there mentally because I was so focused on whatever someone said or whatever thought or whatever struggle I went through. So
you couldn't feel present with your surrounding and your environment and your children.
No, definitely no.
Yeah. And that's, in fact, a few weeks ago, it was last week. Yeah, last week I had a coach as well who was talking about, I think she's a mindset coach as well from what I remember. And she was talking about the fact that, coaching and mindset coaching is very important because it allows us to be present. And Islamically as well, this is very important because then we are able to be more present in our salah, in our ibadah. Yeah. So it's very important that we do have that kind of connection with ourselves in order for us to be more present. So great stuff, Jazakallah khair. And we're just going to remind our dear listeners, just in case anybody joined us a bit later, is that we have Roda with us on the show today, who's a mom of 4 and a community development lead. She has also been in the personal development space for over 4 years as a business mindset coach, as well as organizing and facilitating, doing public speaking and personal development events for women. Roda is sharing with us today how her fears have stopped her from doing things she always wanted to until she decided to work on those fears. Roda now helps women with ambitions and plans to act upon them and overcome their mindset hurdles in order to achieve what they want in life. Dear listeners, if you have any questions, please feel free to send them on 07779 481822. Roda, we have a few minutes before the end of the show, so maybe we can end with, if you can tell us, what advice would you give others, and you work with women as well specifically, so those who have ambitions and plans but who have fears like how you had, or could be different fears, but in general who have fears to act upon them. For example, the fear of failure or fear of not being enough and so on.
Thank you, Jad. So in terms of, I think one advice would definitely be positive. Don't let, so what I've noticed is with a lot of people, they just assume things. You put the thoughts into your heads. You think, I can't do it because, I think like you just put thoughts into your heads that are so negative, you've not even tried taking action. So what I've noticed with a lot of people, they don't take action. They just start thinking of all the negatives. And then because of these like thoughts, you're like, you just give up, and you'll be like, oh, do you know what? I can't do this.
Yeah.
What you need to do is actually take action. Fail. Like, there's nothing wrong with trying, failing, trying again. Things are not always going to be perfect. Like, we just have to know that things will never be perfect. Like, there's no such thing as perfection anyways. But you need to, like, if you want to do something, if you want to try, let's say you've got a project plan, you want to organize an event, you want to organize something for, let's say, even something as small as like for example, like the homeschool community that I'm in, like, for example, if there's a mom she wants to organize like a book club for young people, what's stopping you? Like, there's always little things I've noticed. Like, if you want to do, if there's a business idea that you've got in your head, and maybe you've been thinking about this business for years, what is it that's stopping you? Think about it. The other one I would say definitely is to reflect. Why am I stopping myself? Like, what's holding me back? I'm very big on like journaling, on writing down, on like kind of like reflecting on like my thoughts. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't really look into. Like, you don't reflect. What can I do better? Like, what can I do today to be better than I was yesterday? How can I make myself better? And for example, I would say, let's say you kind of like create like good habits, how can you implement?
Just to let you know, Rhoda, we have about 10 seconds.
Oh, sorry about that. I would say go for it. Like, literally just take action and go for it. Don't overthink. It's not going to take you anywhere.
Yeah. So action, reflection, and then doing it better, right?
Yeah.
So Jazakallah khair for that. Thank you so much, Rhoda. I really, really enjoyed this conversation with you, and inshallah, I hope the dear listeners, no problem. And I hope our dear listeners have enjoyed it as well. Dear listeners, do stay tuned for future shows as well, which take place on Monday, 6 to 7 p.m. Next week's guest is Nabil Sharif, who is the director of the GMW Network, a platform designed to bring together Muslim change makers looking to collaborate and innovate for the betterment of humanity. So, dear listeners, do stay tuned, and inshallah, we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Why not tune in to our live stream at inspirefm.org and follow and subscribe to our social media platforms at Inspire FM Luton.